overfishing. 1. Overfishing has depleted over 90 species and the list grows longer. National Coalition of Marine Conservation. Oh wait. No, in fact, alarming decline in fish populations poses more disturbing, potentially more dangerous threat to life in the ocean. As fish decline, so does the sea and the biologically unprotected and unstable environment. Strong conservation measures and broad-based public support for implementing them are badly needed. What's found out the sea salmon and supply of fish is going to be destroyed. We now longer believe this, but continue to behave as true. For decades now, we've been taking fish from the sea but faster and replacing with dire consequences. 90 fish species found off the shores of the last 7 depleted. 2. Subsidies are the sole cause of overfishing. Sounders 07. 2 huge databases combined with fish stock databases allows them to see why the fish are disappearing. The self-balancing nature of fishing is shown out of killing by widespread government practice of giving fishermen subsidies in boat building, especially fuel. Fuel subsidies are exactly equivalent to the scale of overfishing. The subsidies make a difference between a renewable source and a dying resource. Fuel subsidies are responsible for the continuation of this devastating practice in fishing, bottom trawling, which stirs up the sea and destroys species. Without subsidies, the bulk of the world's bottom trawl fleet would operate at a loss, thereby reducing the threats of fish stocks. Without bad subsidies, there would be fewer people in fishing businesses around the world. This process will actually give the world more fish. There's potential for actually increasing the catch if we can agree to reduce the scale in the short term and avoid subsidizing the industry too much in the long term. It seems like a good solution. 3. Overfishing destroys marine biodiversity, which is the key to human survival, outweighs every other threat to biodiversity down below. 6. Despite its crucial importance to describing humanity, marine biodiversity is ever greater danger. The depletion of fisheries is among the greatest concerns. Fishing is essential to the livelihood and food security of 200 million people. 1 of every 5 people on the planet depends on fish as a primary source of protein. Global marine fish stocks are in jeopardy increasingly from pressure by overfishing. Overfishing cannot continue, warned Secretary General of the World Summit on Sustainable Development. Depletion of fisheries pose a major threat to food supplies of millions of people. The magnitude of probable overfishing is often overlooked, given the competing claims of deforestation, desertification, energy resource exploitation, and other diversity depletion limits. Commercial fishing populations caught haddock and flounder and fall as much as 95%. Probably calls for measures, or 70% of the world's fish populations either fully exploited or depleted. The dramatic increase in destructive fishing techniques worldwide destroys marine mammals and entire ecosystems. 4. Fish stocks necessary to fight poverty. 7. The rights of poor fishermen to harvest and manage local fish stocks need to be strengthened in order to fight poverty and reduce overexploitation to threaten coastal and marine fisheries. Despite the food and income that fishing provides for many fisher folks to live in poverty, while social ills and health concerns are disturbingly prevalent in their communities, strong efforts to tackle diverse factors underlying this reality are needed, or else these communities simply continue to tread waters where they in poverty and not manage fish stocks as well as they might. Poverty. 5. Poverty and starvation kills millions. We have a moral obligation to act. Hunger 92. The number of human beings dying or suffering from hunger, malnutrition, and hunger-related diseases is staggering. At least a quarter of a million populations live in hunger and poverty. All persons have a moral obligation to prevent harm, and doing so would not cause incomparable harm themselves. It is clear that suffering and death from starvation are harms. It is also clear that the migrant financial sacrifices on the part of people of rich nations can prevent massive amounts of suffering and death from starvation. Thus, people in rich nations have a moral obligation. Every week, more than a quarter million children die from malnutrition and illness. Many of these deaths are preventable. 6. Gilligan, 96. Poverty is worse than nuclear war and genocide. Gilligan, 96. Every 15 years on average, as many people die in relative poverty as be killed in a single nuclear war that caused 232 million deaths. And every single year, 2 or 3 times as many people die from poverty throughout the world as were killed by the Nazi genocide of the Jews over a 6-year period. This is in effect the equivalent of an ongoing, unending, and in fact accelerating thermonuclear war or genocide on the weak and poor every year of every decade throughout the world. Advantage to trawling. 1. Deep sea trawling causes irreparable damage to coral seas. Coral reefs. Role 4. Coral reefs are often regarded as the marine force of the sea. Reefs maintain the majority of coral species. Yet even before these deep reefs have been fully explored and documented, they are being destroyed by unregulated deep sea trawling. Based on current knowledge, deep sea coral and sponge communities appear to be important to the biodiversity of the oceans and the sustainability of fishes in their analogs and tropical waters. We urge a moratorium on bottom trawling in high seas. Deep sea coral may rival some kinds of pine trees as the world's oldest organism. These forests provide habitat for huge numbers of important deep sea species. However, many fish species are being discovered just as they are being fished out. 2. Species subsidies cause bottom trawling and destruction of coral and other vulnerable species. Swimming 07. Scientists called for worldwide ban of fuel subsidies. Deep sea fishing boats are putting vulnerable species at risk and damaging corals. High seas catch in deeper waters is carried out by bottom trawling, which involves driving massive nets along the sea flag. A practice that can destroy deep sea corals and sponge beds that have taken centuries or millennia to grow. Deep sea fishing is only profitable because of subsidies. From an ecological perspective, we cannot afford to destroy deep sea. From an economic perspective, deep sea fisheries cannot come without government subsidies, and the bottom line is that current new fisheries are not sustainable. 3. U.S. fisheries practice bottom trawling. Action must be taken to protect deep sea corals and other vulnerable sea life. Oceania 08. Destructive trawls used for commercial fishing continue to destroy entire seafloor environments. That's where you conserve, protect, and explore healthy oceans and healthy fish populations. Oceania's campaign to protect deep sea corals and sponges and other vulnerable seafloor habitats and prevent bottom trawling. A wealth of marine life goes on the seafloor and specific deep water locations offshore from the northeast of the United States, although most bottom trawls in the southeast U.S. and the Gulf of Mexico stay close shore. Trawl fishermen have developed in deep sea and search for rock shrimp, red coral shrimp, and calico scallops. 4. Coral reefs. Healthy oceans keep the life on the planet. U.S. State Department 01. Healthy coral reefs foster species diversity. 1 out of every 4 ocean species thus far identified as reef dwellers, including at least 65% of marine fish species. Clearly, conservation of coral and oceans in general is linked to human survival and will continue to be an urgent issue in the 21st century. Plan. The U.S. federal government will substantially reduce domestic agricultural support of fisheries, including eliminating all subsidies of fisheries. Observation 2, solvency 1. Eliminating fisheries results overfishing and leads to overabundance of ocean life. The International Herald Tribal Aid. From time to time, international bodies try to do something to stall overfishing. Most of the world's fishing fleets receive heavy government subsidies for boat building, equipment, and fuel. A lot of these subsidies for fleets would shrink, and many destructive practices become uneconomic. Many species may soon be so depleted that they are no longer able to reproduce themselves. One road leads to tremendously diminished marine life that leaves the oceans again teeming with abundance. 2. Overfishing as a result of overcapacity. Only eliminating subsidies will solve. 208. Government subsidies have led to overcapacity in all important fishing areas. At its core, the crisis of overfishing stems from the fact that the world now has substantial overabundance of fishing capacity. Predictable result of overcapitalized fleets have been overfishing and depletion of stocks, as well as sustainable economic loss. 3. Better application of subsidies is an essential step in reducing overcapacity. Distilled 5. 90% of the large fish populations overfished or depleted. Fishery subsidies contribute to overcapacity and distort the natural market for the growing industry. These subsidies undermine many previously proposed and implemented government measures to cope with overcapacity. Additionally, as minimalize activated operating cost subsidies encourage new industry entrants who further aggravate the overfishing problem. The ratification of subsidies is an essential step in reducing overcapacity. 4. The U.S. needs to play a role in international leadership role. Play an international leadership role and cut subsidies to act as a model for other nations. Riley 2. The U.S. has already played an important leadership role in the conservation of high seas fisheries more than any other major nation. We have played a key role in the field in reducing government subsidies. We need to do a better job of making sure the important international fisheries agreements are not merely paper exercises. We need to improve the way in which we manage the fish stocks with our own exclusive economic zones so that we can serve as a model for other fishing nations. 5. Time is running out. The U.S. must act now to stop overfishing. New York Times away. 5 years to elapse since the Pew Oceans Commission similar report urging prompt action to arrest the alarming decline of these countries' ocean resources. 4 years to elapse since the Blue Ribbon Presidential Commission said much the same thing, urging special attention about overfishing. Despite the occasional bursts of energy, however, the Bush administration and Congress have left much to be done. The time is running out. These actions show that progress is possible and challenge White House and Congress to do better. 6. Eliminating subsidies is the largest single action that can be taken to protect the world's fisheries. Oceania 7. Oceans cover more than 2/3 of the globe, and they are as important as they are vast. However, the world's oceans are a critical juncture in face of creatures that to restore them. Global fish fleets are taking too much ocean life from the water. The result: declining fisheries, and the result: destruction of marine habitat and threatening the world's largest and most important natural system, as well as the nearly 1 billion people rely on fish for their daily protein, and tens of millions of people who depend on the sea for livelihood. Since the 80s, the global sea catch has been falling, exacerbating global overfishing is massive subsidies to their fishing fleets to increase their ability to fish. Eliminating these overfishing subsidies likely a single largest section can be making real Chinese fishing. These problems. Next, moral imperative. We must act in accordance with the generic rights of others. None of these rights pursue to any action in the protection of moral imperative. Gareth, 86. I have involved in considerable detail an argument for a principle that provides a determinate ground for moral, especially human rights. A ground that derives from the necessary conditions of action and successful action in general. The first is that every agent logically must accept that he has a right to freedom and well-being, which is the generic features and necessary conditions of action and generally successful action. The second thesis is that every agent logically must also accept that all other actual or prospective agents have the same rights and claims as himself. From these two theses, these follows the supreme moral principle that every agent must also follow logically. Act in accordance with the generic rights of the recipients as well as yourself. It is with this principle that grounds the specific human rights and freedom and well-being in the spirits both of the individual action and of social institutions. Contrary to the justificatory